I don't know how to begin. Every protocol, every procedure drilled into me for the last 20 years seems like a farce now. Nothing prepared us for this. Earth is gone. Before we begin, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. I don't mean metaphorically or in some abstract sense. It's gone. A monstrous asteroid. A rogue killer the scientists didn't see until it was too late. Struck with the force of 1,000,000 hydrogen bombs. The impact boiled oceans, shattered continents, and set the atmosphere itself ablaze. What's left is a smoldering blackened husk, orbiting the sun like a burnt offering to a god long gone. There were 3 of us on the Orion-VI orbiting Earth when it happened. Dr. Elliot Morse, our lead scientist, was the first to calculate the asteroid's trajectory. His warning came 12 days before impact. It was too late for evacuation or any kind of planetary defense system. The governments back on Earth tried to keep the truth from the public for as long as they could. Riots broke out. Cities fell into chaos. Morse called it a mathematical inevitability. It didn't feel inevitable. Felt like betrayal. Chief Engineer Paul Myers didn't take the news well. Neither did I. The 3 of us had already been up here for 8 months on what was supposed to be a routine resupply mission to the ISS. We were just waiting for the green light to come back home when Morse gave us the calculations. When the asteroid hit, the shockwave sent pieces of Earth's crust rocketing into orbit. For a while, it looked like the planet itself was disintegrating. From up here, it was like watching hell break loose in slow motion. Cities glowed like dying embers. Fires consumed forests that stretched across continents. And then, silence. No more lights. No more signals. We lost Earth that day. We lost everything. This is Captain David Hale. Personal log. Day 5 since Earth's destruction. I sat in the commander's chair, staring at the screen that used to show our connection to mission control. It was blank now, a cold blue glow casting shadows across the empty station. The only sound was the hum of the failing life support systems, struggling to recycle air in a way that would keep us alive. Supplies are limited. We were only stocked for a standard mission duration of 1 year. Without resupply, without Earth, we have less than 2 months of rations if we stretch everything to the limit. Morse had already started dividing our resources into strict portions. He approached the problem like a scientist dissecting a dead specimen. Cold, clinical, detached. We have enough water to last 50 days. Oxygen will outlast the food by about 15 days, assuming no leaks. Morse had explained, his voice void of emotion. We need to reduce caloric intake and prioritize low-energy activities. Myers didn't take the news well. He slammed his fist into the nearest console, nearly breaking the screen. 50 days, he bellowed. What's the point, Morse? Even if we last 50 days, what then? We'll starve in orbit like rats in a tin can. Morse adjusted his glasses and shrugged. Survival is better than surrender. Every day we're alive increases the chance of rescue, slim as it may be. Rescue? Myers laughed, bitter and unhinged. Who the hell is going to rescue us? There's no one left down there, Morse. You think a bunch of ghosts are going to build a rocket? Enough, I barked. We're not killing each other. Not yet. Days aboard Orion-VI had turned into an unrelenting grind, like living inside the ticking mechanism of a slowly breaking clock. Every action felt devoid of purpose, a mechanical necessity to delay the inevitable. I noticed the little things first, the air growing thinner, our breaths shallower. The hum of the oxygen generators no longer sounded stable. It stuttered sometimes, and I could swear the temperature had dropped a few degrees. Morse had commandeered one of the workstations, his meticulous notes and equations covering nearly every square inch of available surface. He lived inside his calculations, rarely speaking unless necessary. I could hear the scratch of his pen at night, like an insect crawling in the dark. Myers wasn't handling it well. He's hiding something, Myers said to me late one night. We were in the galley, though meal was a laughable term for the gray paste we rationed as food. His eyes darted toward the sealed door of the lab, where Morse was working. Morse? He's focused. That's how he copes. I offered, though my voice lacked conviction. Myers shook his head, his face a mask of shadow and exhaustion. You're too damn trusting, Captain. That man's playing God, and you know it. You've seen the spreadsheet. He leaned in closer, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. Do you know what's on it? It's not just supplies. He's got every detail: calories consumed, oxygen usage, estimated survival rates for each of us. He's planning hail. He's calculating which one of us gets the chop. I wanted to dismiss him, to tell him it was paranoia, but the truth clawed at me. Morse's obsessive attention to detail wasn't just about the station systems. It was personal, targeted. I'd seen the spreadsheet Myers was talking about, and I couldn't ignore the clinical detachment in Morse's annotations. Doesn't mean he's plotting to kill us? I said finally, though my words felt hollow. Then what's it for, huh? Why is he muttering equations about survival curves under his breath? Why's he got that damn poker face every time I bring up rations? I didn't have an answer. It started over something small. I don't even remember what. Maybe Myers had taken more than his share of water, or maybe Morse said something about oxygen reserves. Either way, the shouting escalated quickly. You think you're so smart, don't you? Myers roared, his fists clenched. His voice echoed in the narrow confines of the station. Sitting up there, making your little plans, deciding who gets to live and die. Morse didn't even flinch. He set down the datapad he was reviewing and adjusted his glasses. I don't decide anything, Myers. The math is the math. We either manage our resources intelligently or we all die. If that offends your delicate sensibilities, I'm sorry. Myers snapped. He lunged at Morse, grabbing him by the collar and slamming him into the bulkhead. Morse's datapad clattered to the ground, and I could see fear in his eyes for the first time. Back off, Myers, I barked, pulling him away with all the authority I could muster. He's lying, Myers shouted, his voice breaking. He's gonna screw us over, Captain. He's probably already figured out how to survive on his own, and he's just waiting for us to drop. That's enough, I growled. Morse straightened his glasses and picked up his datapad, his hands trembling slightly. If you're done indulging this absurd conspiracy, I'll be in the lab, he said, before retreating without another word. After he left, Myers slumped into a chair, his head in his hands. You think I'm crazy, he muttered. I didn't answer. The station was dying. Morse was the one to confirm it. The CO2 scrubbers are nearly spent, he said during one of our meetings. His voice was calm, as always, but there was a note of finality in his tone. Even if we reduce oxygen consumption, we'll lose breathable air within 20 days. I rubbed my temples, trying to stave off the growing headache that had become a constant companion. Options. Morse hesitated. There's one. The room went still. Myers narrowed his eyes. I knew it. Here comes the grand plan. Morse ignored him. He pulled up a diagram of Orion-VI on the station's central console. I've been tracking the debris field. It's chaotic, but there's a small gap. A narrow window where we could attempt a descent to Earth using the escape pod. Earth? I said, my throat dry. The word felt foreign, like something from another lifetime. You've seen the thermal scans. There's nothing left. Not nothing, Morse corrected. There's debris, pockets of lower temperatures, possibly survivable zones. The atmosphere is toxic, but if we time it right, the pod systems could shield us during re-entry. It's a slim chance, but it's better than staying here. Myers laughed bitterly. Yeah, great plan, Morse. Except for one little problem. The pod only seats 2, so who gets to go? You gonna run your numbers and decide? Doc. Silence fell over the room. I'll stay, Morse said finally. The escape pod loomed in the docking bay, its battered exterior a stark contrast to the cold steel of the station. Morse stood beside it, his expression unreadable. The station's trajectory will decay eventually, he said. Someone needs to monitor it until the end. It might not matter, but someone has to try. You sure about this? I asked, my voice thick with emotion. Morse nodded. I'm sure. Myers avoided looking at him as we loaded the last of the supplies into the pod. The tension between them had reached an uneasy truce, but it hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. Morse handed me a small data drive. If you find anything, record it. Let someone know what happened here. I wanted to say something, thank him, maybe, or apologize for doubting him, but the words caught in my throat. Instead, I nodded and climbed into the pod. Re-entry was hell. The pod shook violently, alarms blaring as flames engulfed the viewport. I held onto the controls, my knuckles white, while Myers screamed beside me. "Brace for impact," I shouted, though the words felt useless. The landing was catastrophic. The pod hit the ground with a force that felt like it would tear me apart. I blacked out. When I woke, the pod was half buried in ash. Myers was gone, his harness dangling uselessly. Blood stained the seat where he'd been. Earth was unrecognizable. The sky was a churning sea of orange and black, thick with ash that clung to my skin and lungs. The ground was cracked and lifeless, covered in a fine layer of soot that muted every step. I wandered through the ruins of a world I barely recognized. The skeletons of skyscrapers jutted out of the ground like jagged teeth, their once proud structures reduced to rubble. Rivers were blackened streams of sludge, winding aimlessly through the devastation. There was no sound, no wind, no life, just silence. I don't know why I keep walking. Maybe it's instinct, or maybe I'm chasing the ghost of hope. But deep down, I know the truth. I'm the last man on Earth. Thank you for listening. If this story chilled you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and join me again for more tales of the strange and terrifying. Until next time, stay curious and stay safe.